Have you thought about building your own tiny home, but the more you look into it, the more complicated it seems? Then come along with us as we navigate you through all the options and restrictions, helping you make this dream come true. Let's go. Hey guys, Musa here from Quantum Home Improvements and Solutions. Welcome back. And if this is your first time to our channel, it's great having you join us. And so now I'm excited to say we're up to stage 4 of this tiny home construction, which is not so tiny. And so if you haven't seen already, the first stage is where we did the base, where we used the universal beams from Orcon Steel and used the RHS and the SHS from Priority Steel. And so the second stage is when we made the walls and put them up and finished the ceiling joists. And third stage is where we made the retractable decking and put the decking on. And so stage 4 is what I'm going to enjoy the most, which is the carpentry. So there's 2 stages of carpentry. There's going to be the outside and then there's going to be the inside after the floor has been laid. Now, to the most part, the carpentry here is going to be pretty basic, but there are bracing that is steel, and I'm going to have to make triangle frames, which is going to be really interesting. And there's a whole heap of them, as you can see. And when I finish the carpentry on the outside, I'm then going to put on the sliding door and also the windows. There is still a little bit more welding to go. Still need to weld the window for the ensuite and also put some trimmers just in the middle here. So in preparation, I went through and grind off the high points where the frames are going to sit, and also got the wire brush on the drill and cleaned up the welds and then sprayed it with a zinc spray to protect it from rusting. So these SHS steel pipes are 70mm wide, which is going to allow me to use 70mm timbers. Now, there is a bit of a sag in the areas where there's a long span, and now I'm going to structurally support that. And so I'm going to be using MGP 10 structural timber, 45 by 70s to carry the load of these areas. So the timbers I'm going to start off using is repurposed timber, which I got from my very good friend Tony from DNA Plastering, who's a commercial builder, and he's very good at what he does. And if you like, I'll put a link in the descriptions below for him. So unfortunately, I started a little late today, but I've prepared everything and now I'll get into it. So I'm going to start on the west wall, which is this wall just here, and it's the biggest wall, but I'm going to break it up into 2 pieces, mainly because there is a wall internally going through this way. And so, as I said, I'm using 70mm studs on the outside, but for the inside, without confusing, I'm using 90mm because I'm using internal cavity sliding doors, and I prefer to use a 90mm for internal cavity, not 70, because they're a bit tight for the doors. So I've broken up into 2 pieces, and I'm going to make the first one up to this bedroom. So the bedroom size is 2.98 meters, so it's just under 3 meters, and the ensuite is 1600. So I've measured out the 1600, measured out the 90mm, and then measured out the 2.980, and it comes to here. So the balance is from this point to that way. So it's 2.645 meters. Okay, so I'm just double checking, but the wall is level. I already knew that when I built the walls, but just always good to check. Now, I use different type of measuring tools, and so I've got a measuring stick. So I'm going to measure off the height. So that measurement is 2588, and this one here was 2576, so it's 12mm difference. So now I'm going to make the wall exactly the same size and just prise this here using a crowbar and push it up and squeeze it into position, and that'll force the roof to actually straighten up and take the bow out. Now this saw is directly on 0, which means that it'll be on 90 degree. So I'll just give this a quick cut. Okay, so first I'm going to start with the studs. Now the studs sit inside the top and bottom plate, and so that means you've got to deduct the thickness of that, which is 90mm. And so the height was 2588, and we're going to take a couple of mil off to so we don't have to squeeze it in, and then we also take the 90mm off that measurement as well. So it becomes 2498 minus 2mm, so 2496. Beautiful. And so this later I'll use for a noggin. So when I'm cutting, I'm careful to cut around the nail so it doesn't damage the blade. Okay, so now I'm going to cut the top and bottom plate, and it's 2645 as I said before. Now I'm going to mark out my stud spacings. Now, generally speaking, I space my studs internally at 450 centers. Now, you can go up to 600, but I find that's a false economy because just to save a couple of timbers, the plasterboard becomes weaker inside the room. So if kids are playing around or if you bump the walls, you can bust them easier. So the closer the studs are together, the more you protect your lining. Okay, so this side's a little different. The bedroom wall starts from here, the internal wall. So I've got to allow 90 mil. So I'm going to put 2 pieces in here. Okay, so now I'm going to go through and just start nailing it. So this stud needs to be on the outer part of the 90 mil, and this is just a packer. So this stud is where you'll screw your plasterboard to on the other side of the room. Okay, so generally speaking, I put 3 nails per stud. Okay, so I just transferred the measurement onto this bottom plate, and I'll just put it over here and nail that in. Now I'm going to put a couple of noggins in. I'm not going to do all of them. It's going to be hard to get to the noggins this side later when I want to nail it in. So I'll just do this side. So now any walls are over 2.4 meters and you're using timber, the timber can deflect. So you've got to put the supports in between. So the noggins usually can't be any more than 1200 apart. Now, because this wall is 2.588, that means I've measured it's roughly about 850 apart. Now, that's either side of the mark. As long as it doesn't go over to 1.2, it's fine. Okay, this is looking great. Now I've got to put the wall in. So the reason I put these tables here, because it's so close to the wall, I can just slide it on. Now, I do have a spinal injury, and I've been getting anyone to help me, but at this point, I can do this on my own, just by using a couple of leverages and tricks. Okay, moment of truth. Let's see if we can get this thing up. Oh, it's a bit heavy. There we go. Okay, so I'll just pull this end up here. Okay, this is temporary. Beautiful. I'll just take this out. That is incredible. And now you can see that the actual roof is straight. That's really good. So when I fix these timbers to the steel, that's when I can do the final adjustments. But for now, I'm just going to let them sit there. Okay, so I've gone through and put all the noggins on, and now I'm going to put the last one. So what I usually do is just measure out the noggins, 405, which is for a 450 center, if you're using 45 mil timber studs. And then the last one, I just measure off to suit so the wall is not being pushed out. So I've also gone through and made the small wall, and that fit beautifully. I've also made the ensuite wall, and I'm now just about to go put that in. This is not going in as easy as I thought. So an old lesson I learned, when in doubt, give a clout. And the clout worked. Okay, it's all done. So as I said before, I'll screw all these timbers into the steel later. It's a big job and I prefer to do it all in one go. We're finally up to the stage of plumbing, and we've had a lot of rain and it has slowed me down. So I said to Charlie, if he can come and just do the sewer for me in preparation before we put our floorboards on, because we won't be able to access so easy later. So Charlie, what do you think of the project so far?
Looking great, Musa. Really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a mobile home too. How does it compare?
It's built like the harbour bridge.
So Charlie and I have gone through how we're going to form the plumbing. So we're now going to do the plumbing or the sewer for the ensuite, and also to pick up the pipe from the kitchenette. Yep. So Charlie, we've got the IO, it's existing. Yep. So you're saying to me that you now need to dig past that and then form the actual sewer from underneath. So this is not the only method that you can use to do your sewer, but Charlie, you told me there's other methods. So what are the other things people do for tiny homes?
So this way is just like the sort of natural way. We've got an IO point here, we're just going to connect it. It's going to fall naturally to the sewer main.
Yep.
The other methods, if you don't have like an IO close by or the adequate fall, you can put like a macerator pump, they call it.
Yep.
everything goes into like a box.
Yep.
It grinds it up, and then you can actually pump it out.
Okay, so it has its own storage?
It's got its own little tank. And
Yep.
it mulches it up, and it goes through a 1-inch pressure pipe.
Yep.
And it can pump wherever you want.
So Charlie and I have been working together now for around about 12 years. I started working with him when he was an apprentice. He used to come to all my bathroom renovation jobs, and he's very clued up. So now he runs his own business, Top Notch Plumbing. All right, so we'll get into it, and Charlie's going to now form up all the sewer.
Yep, done. All right, so that.
Okay, Charlie, this is looking great. So you got the sleeve over there so we can disconnect this from the tiny home.
Yep.
You've got your toilet, you've got your 4-way here, which you're going to run your vanity and the shower through, is that right?
That's right, yep.
Okay, so now we're just doing the kitchenette pipe. This is a 50 mil, so when you're running kitchen, you need to do 50 mil. So I drilled this hole through when I drilled the holes for the skids. So now we're putting an air remittance valve just here underneath, under the subfloor. So you need that because water has atmospheric pressure in a pipe, so you actually have to have air to allow the water to run. This looks fantastic. Great job.
That's it.
You made my life easier. Thank you very much, Charlie.
Oh, good, man. No problem
Mate, this
at all.
is great. Now, I'll call you back when we do the roughings for the walls,
Yep.
but that won't be until I put my flooring down and do all my walls.
Yep.
So good. Hey, thanks, Charlie.
No worries, miss.
So off camera, I've started doing the timber work on the cross bracing. Just try it out and see how it's going to work. And so now I'm going to go through and do all the others, but first I'm going to finish off the welding. So there is a bit more welding to do. This is the last stage of welding. So the bathroom window is going to go in here. And so the bathroom itself only comes to this point. So I'm going to put another stud going upwards, and then the window will form from that. So in the ensuite, the bathroom window will be on the left to make room for the shower, which will be here. So now I've still got to put a stud on this side to carry the other side of the window, and then the header. But while I was doing all the cutting, I also cut more pieces. So I made the door. So this is where I'm going to put the hot water system. So I'm going to hinge that door on. I've already cut it. I've welded it, grind back all the high points, and then I sprayed it with Colgal. So that's actually ready to be installed as well. And so I've cut 2 trimmers, and they're going to be in between the 2 joists, which is going to carry the wall, the common wall between the bedroom and the lounge room, so I can screw up and that will stabilize the wall. And finally, I cut the bracket that's going to sit for the winch. Now, I couldn't get the winch straight away, but it has arrived now. Okay, so that's tacked now, top and bottom. So whenever you're welding, you have to tack around the spots you want to weld because there is a movement, so you've got to stop that movement. So you just give it a little bit of tack around and then you do a solid weld. Now, in case you haven't seen stage 1, 2 or 3 of my videos making this tiny home, I'm using a Unimig Viper 185 and it's a MIG TIG and arc welder, and I got it from Total Tools, and this thing is fantastic and weld up to 10 mil steel, and the thickest steel we've got here is 8 mil. So now I'm going to put on the winch bracket. Now this bracket is made out of the 100 by 100 post that I use for the bearers, so it's 3 mil thick, and you need that because it's going to take a lot of weight. This decking is around about 450 kilos dead weight. What we have to do is make sure when it is folded up that the decking can go under the winch, but also the height here has to allow for the gutter, so I have to be pretty precise in this measurement. So now the reason I put the 2 posts to give it more strength, as I said before, and also I've put it to the left because that's closer to the actual decking. So when the winch goes on, if it's too far out, the strap itself, when it's pulling back, is going to run off its wheel. So I want it to run as straight as possible. Okay, so the decking itself is going to come roughly to about here. So it's going to miss it perfectly, but I also have to allow room for straps. So the strap itself, we're going to have to go somewhere around here to hold it in place when it's being transported. So now the height I've got here will finish up after I put the battens around about 260 mil. Now the gutter's going to take up probably around about 100 of that, but when you're changing the gutters in the future, if you don't leave enough room to swing out, that's going to be an issue. And then on top of this winch is a wheel, so I've got to allow for that wheel as well. So I've got to give at least 100 mil for this gutter to come back out if it needs to. Okay, it's all done. So after almost a week of rain on and off, plus also injuring myself, falling down one of those joists, which was not good for me, took a few days to recover, I'm now ready to construct the wall, which is the last part of this straight section of the west wall. So these have been sitting here for a few days. I just hinged the metal door and that's working really well. So this wall is a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle, and the reason being because I'm going to put a window in that section. Now the window is not centered to this outside area, but it's centered to the room, and the room is just under 3 meters. And so I wanted the window to be centered, and so the way to do that, I had to add a 45 mil stud on the end, which is for the left side, but then I went a 35, and that'll get me roughly to the start of the window. So now I'm just going to go through and laminate them together. Okay, so now I've got a shorter length stud, which I'm going to put up against as well. Okay, so now this length, in actual fact, is going to be the top section that will hold the base of the window. So the sill is going to be here. So I'm mimicking the height of the ensuite window. This here is the base of the window. So now I'm going to add, this is 610, this will be the height of the window. Beautiful. So now the window itself is 2 meters wide, and I'm making this 2 meters and 10 mil. So let's double check. Woohoo! 2 meters and 10 mil. So now I'm going to put the outer stud on, and so this is the outer part of the wall. Just nail that in. Okay, so they're all done. The studs are in place. They actually have 4 10 centers, which is evenly spaced. So now with the header, I'm doing it a little bit different to what you would normally. So usually you put a beam up just to take any deflection from the roof pushing downwards. So what I've got here is 2 lots of 35 mil by 70 mil, and I'm gonna nail them back to back, and then I'm gonna put a 45 mil on top. And now combined all those timbers will give it some strength for deflection. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just nail in these short studs into this top header, and then I can slip it in under the top plate. Beautiful. Reload. All right. Let's put a skew nail there, another one here. Not going to heat. This wall is complete. I just hope it fits. Okay, so I've got Marion with me. She's going to give me a hand. She just come home a short while ago. Now we go together, Marion. This is looking good, Marion. That's sitting in beautifully, really tight. I think it's going in. Is it?
Yeah.
I thought I did the other one tight. Okay, Mary, now only because I don't want to move, I'm just going to get the nail gun and put a couple of nails in here to marry these together. Okay, that's locked in. I won't lock the top off yet because it's still on an angle and it's still a bit of a gap, so I'll leave that for now. Okay, that's looking just incredible. Wow, she's a locked off for now. Marion, come and give Papa a hug. Ah, baby. Mwah. So now I've cut out the last straight wall. Okay, so that's nailed together. Now I'll just put this in. Okay, this is looking good so far. So now these two walls are locked in together, and I've done the noggins on the other side. So now I'm going to start on the cross bracing. I'm going to show you how I do all the angles. I'm going to start on this cross brace here, only because it's at the right level for me to show you without having to go up and down a ladder. On the cross brace I did on the east side, I did all the triangles, the 4 sides. Now here, because I've got the hot water system coming in, I'm actually only going to be doing this as a full piece, this as a half piece, and this as a half piece. Because when I make the internal wall later, that'll marry up to this side here and it'll support this inner timber. Okay, so now what I've done is got a level and I found my level from the center of the cross brace. I've marked it out. So now the center is where the middle of the timber is going to be, but the timber is going to go either side of that. It's going to have a triangle going into the cross brace. Okay, so now I'm going to measure to the inner part of that angle, right inside to the very edge and to the outside. So that comes to 915 millimeters. So now the one thing I'm going to use here to get that angle is an adjustable bevel. So what I do is put it hard up against here, go all the way in, and then that'll get me my angle. And now I can transfer this angle onto the timber. So now I'll just mark out the beveled edge. There we are there. Now with the top plate, I know for a fact it's got to be the exact same angle. I just don't know the length at this point, or the width I should say. So I'm just going to mark that out as well. And there we are, we have the angle. So I'll just put this in, it should be the right size. Beautiful, that's perfect. Okay, so now here's the mark for the outside of the stud. And there it is there, just mark that. So that should be 915 mil. Okay, so that's 31.5 degrees roughly, just to remember that. There we go. Okay, so now I'll just sit that piece back. This one I'll leave on the side for the top. And this is right on the mark. Okay, so now I'm going to measure to the highest point that this comes to. So it's 1.193. This is the center, and it's 22.5 mil to the middle. Okay, so now using the level, I got the half angle of this one here, and I'm now, from that center, I'm gonna mark out a cut from the middle, and I'm gonna do it on the other end as well. Beautiful. Okay, I'll just make sure that it looks level. Ah, spot on, beautiful. Now I'll just cut this piece. Okay, look at that. Beautiful. Okay. Done. I found where I'm going to put this stud, which is basically in the center of this, this particular wall, and just found my level, marked it up, measured the stud, which is going to go right here. I measured the top one, but then I decided to go through and put all the others in, and then I've cut this stud. And so that stud will just sit here like that, and then I've got the noggin here. So all up, it's taken me around about 2 hours to do this. This takes a long time. The other bracing section took me 4 hours. There's a little bit more work in it, plus I was trying to work out how I was going to do it. It is actually getting a little easier. All right, this section is now complete. Now I'll get on to doing the others. We're back, I've got Marion with me. So now she's gonna help me put the doors and windows on. Now I haven't finished doing the cross bracing yet with all the timbers. I actually ran out, and I just wanna say a big thank you to Tony for giving me those timbers. It did a lot of this actual tiny home, probably around about 70%. Now these products I got from Bradnam Windows, and I've been using them for years, and they're a great product and value for money. In actual fact, when I was doing my bathroom renovations, I would only use Bradnam's. And when we built this house, we also used their product. And I'd like to thank the guys who were very obliging when they delivered these products. One thing with this door, a bit of an issue, not major. I'm going to work around it. Now, from the outside of the door to this lip here is 80 millimeters or thereabouts. And with this retractable decking, I can only afford 60 mil, so it's a bit of an issue. So instead, what I'm going to do is use these multi-grips and actually break this little section off. And so that'll allow me to push the door in further. So all I do is just manipulate it up and down like this, and this will come off. Okay, it's quite easy to do. It is aluminium. There we go. This came off pretty easily. So now we can put the door anywhere we want. We will need to use packers behind here, and then from there we'll just put a new fixing point. Okay, Marion, can you put that on the bearer? That's it, just watch out. Okay, there we are. Okay, I'll just put a level on this and see how this is looking. Are you serious? I'm just going to drill this in. Before I go too far, I'm going to make sure that I've got 60 mil here. and I've actually got 56. So there's an extra probably 6 mil when the decking goes over, and it'll miss it completely. So this is looking really good. The corrugator is going to come into here, and that's going to take in about probably 20 mil with the Anacon. So it'll only be sticking out 35 mil. So this is a really good result. Okay, I'll just put another one in to secure this. Okay, so these screws that I'm using is the same as these decking screws. I think they're fantastic. These are really solid. So I'm going to use these. I need some packers for it. Beautiful. Okay, so now we're going to put the bedroom window on, but what I'm going to do here, I'll just take the sash out. So I'll just lift it up, pull it out. I'm going to make this lighter. I don't want this too heavy for me. Okay, so watch out when you are on a ladder. Most accidents happen on short ladders, and don't step on this top platform. Right now, okay, still a bit of weight in it, but it's not too bad. I'll just get this over like this. Okay. Is that sitting inside, please, Marion?
It is, yes.
Can you make sure the packers are under it? Okay, that's one. Okay, that's in, Marion. Okay, Marion, that's done. I've got the earmuffs around my neck, but I haven't got them on. Talking about being focused, wow. Okay, Marion, we're done. Thank you once again, my baby. Okay, so now the windows are in. There's a bit of a concern with the wind load on the window that may be able to push this wall in and out. So these top plates have not been anchored into the steel yet, and that's a bit of a concern. So I've spoken to George, the engineer, and we came up with an idea to anchor them in with just a hex drive self-drilling screw. Now I tried 50 mil, but it didn't actually go in deep enough, so I had to countersink and then put the 50 mil screw. Now I'm going to make life a little easier, and I've actually gone through and got 65 mil. So the way I'm going to do that basically is just pre-drill into the timber with a 4 mil drill bit. Just like that. And then I'm going to drill in the 65 mil hex drive self drillers. And these are a 12 gauge. And there we go. And what I'm doing is just basically straightening out the wall. I can feel that it's flush on the other side, it's flush on this side. And so now I'm going to put one just here. So roughly every 450 mil. So this here is just on a bit of an angle, so I'm going to pre-drill into the steel a bit because it's going to be hard to get the self-driller into there. There we go. Well, that's all the way in, and I'll just drive this one in. There we go. So when you are building a house where timbers go into concrete, the normal practice in New South Wales, in Sydney, is every 1.2 metres you put an anchor, like a Dynabolt. But here I'm going to do it every 450 mil because when this is travelling on the road, there will be a lot of movement. So I'm actually trying to stabilise these timbers a lot more. So I've done the south wall, the west wall, and all the other braced walls. And so I'm just doing the last section now, which is the north wall. These are difficult, the south and north wall, because of the ceiling has a 5-degree fall. You've got to get an angle for both the top and the bottom. They're not the same angle, where all the others had the same angle top and bottom. So now you remember the ensuite is 2.1 metres wide, now which comes to the end of this pipe here. So that's the internal measurement. Then there will be a wall coming out this way. So what I had to do is basically create a timber section for the lining to fit to. So what I've done here is actually just use 2 small pieces of timber and screw them into the steel, as I did for the bottom plate and also the top plate of the walls. So now they're secured in, and then I cut all the pieces I needed using the bevel again. You won't be able to do this with a sliding bevel, by the way. So now I'll just nail this piece in. Okay, so now I'll just put the top plate on. It's only a small piece. And then there's this one here. And so a lot of these nails are just skewed in Yeah, so unfortunately, it's the only way you can actually put these in. Okay, the north wall is now complete. It looks fantastic. All right, so I've went and cut all the battens and then placed them on the roof. I've actually spaced them from the edge in 900 centers, and then in the middle it's 1200 centers. Now, depending on what thickness corrugated you use, you have to space them a certain distance, so you can't go over a maximum. And one thing also to note with the battens, I actually scattered them where they didn't land on the same joist, so the joins are at different levels, so there's no weak spots anywhere. I'll just put this one in first just to hold it, and then I'll do the rest. Okay, so I've taken the screw lower than the actual timber batten, so the colour bond doesn't interfere with it. Okay, this is fantastic. I've got a lot to do, but it won't take me that long. This is quite easy. Okay, so George has arrived and he's had a look at the structure. Hey George, thanks for coming again.
Hey, how are you? Nice
George,
to see you again.
Thank you. What do you think?
Oh, look, it looks fantastic.
Compared to what it did when you first looked at it, now it's braced even more with the timbers.
Well, yeah, that's right. This all this timber is really just secondary structure.
Yep.
But notwithstanding that, it is, we like to use a term called belts and braces.
Yep.
What it does, it just provides additional strength. So
Yep.
when this is going on road,
Yep.
and more so because it could be traveling about 100 k's an hour.
Yep.
And one of the key sort of forces that you have to deal with is inertia force.
So the braking.
When you put a brake,
Yep.
and plus the weight of the structure causes
Yep,
a big thrust. So with adding all these timber members and interlocked inside the steel members, what that does is it basically creates a very robust system to take. And this will experience very minimal deformation.
Yep.
And also it has enough strength in the joints.
Yep.
And in the overall frame to resist any stresses due to that jerking movement on the road.
Fantastic, George. That's what I'm looking for. I need this, and as I said in the last video, some people said this is overbuilt. I don't think it is. When you're traveling long distances, you've got the inertia, as you said, for the braking. You're gonna want this to be structurally strong. This is very big, but also by the time you put your floor linings, your walls, your outer linings, the color bond, that's also going to add more rigidity to it.
Absolutely. All the elements that you add after, for example, the lining.
Yep.
The particle board,
Yep.
that's all going to increase the rigidity of the overall frame. So this whole frame basically will be like a rigid box section.
Anyway, George, that's fantastic. Thank you for reinforcing everything that I've done.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this
it's
amazing
fantastic
project. It is something when you see it on a video, but when you're actually here live, it's amazing, especially this
decking. I love this decking.
With the views out to
it's beautiful. The Penrith views,
Penrith,
yeah, it's beautiful. It's got a beautiful night light here.
Yes.
So if you're looking for a good engineer, I will put a link for George in the description below, but I'm also going to put a link in for Tony from DNA Plastering, plus the guys from Bradnam and for Bunnings, and I'm also going to put a link in for stage 1, 2 or 3 of this tiny home. And so the next stage is actually putting in the color bond on, which is stage 5, and it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be lock up. I don't have to worry about the rain anymore. It's driving me nuts. Anyway, so that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And if you have any comments at all, please leave them below and I will get back to you. And I'd ask you, please consider to subscribe, hit the like button and share this video, and there's many more to come. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Ah, baby. Mwah. Have some sweat. Mwah. Oh, yuck. Look at that, Marion. That does look incredible or what?
What?
What?